is the broadcast of Back Roads of Illinois. We are bringing latest agricultural news and markets update on Back Roads of Illinois. Bring you like inside of the markets and interview with people in the agricultural industry for farmers and ranchers in central Illinois and across the Midwest. This is edition of Back Roads of Illinois. We are Central Illinois agriculture source, and in the Midwest alongside in Central Illinois agriculture, we are glad you're here on a Monday afternoon. We were talking about the harvest season in Central Illinois. The corn is dried down into the end of the month. However, we were going to talk about it with Aaron Wylie from Bayer. Also, we were looking for biofuels. We were going to talk about the 45Z models with Jacqui Fatka from CoBank. We will talk about the ethanol production with her. We're having an update from Minnesota. It's pretty variable for this crop in southern Minnesota. We were talking with Seth Naeve from the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis. All right, this time is serious business for your agricultural news and markets. On Back Roads of Illinois. We were watching for fire danger in the field in central Illinois near Champaign. However, we're having some reports from Knox County, Illinois. Reported that fire danger in the field as well. The Mississippi River is being handled by lower river level for the barge. We talked about the Mississippi with Mike Steenhoek from Soy Transportation on the Midwest. Mike Steenhoek are concerned about the shipment of the ag goods in the river. The acreage report is coming out for next Monday at 11 Central Time from the Department of Agricultural. Some traders are looking for a yield trend for next week. We were discussing with Aaron Wylie from Bayer about the harvest season and update on the 45Z models with Jacqui Fatka from CoBank. Stay tuned on Back Roads of Illinois. We were going to talk about the harvest season in central Illinois and the growing season in central Illinois as well on Back Roads of Illinois. We were here with Aaron Wylie from Bayer. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Cesar, for having me. I appreciate you having me on. This is pretty cool.
Let's start with our conversation about updating on the harvest season. And could you tell us what part of the state you are?
Yeah, so I'm from North Central Illinois in Livingston County in that Dwight area. For Channel Seed, I cover over to Woodford County, Grundy County, some of Kendall, over to Kankakee County. Harvest has just really started in this last week and this week. Got a lot of test plots and a lot of corn and soybeans coming out. So yields are kind of scattered across the board. You go west of it seems like Pontiac. There's some really big soybean and corn yields where you get east of Pontiac where there wasn't as much rain. Um, Kind of sporadic yields, but overall a really, really, really good start to the harvest season so far with some of these yields that we're seeing.
What is the corn yields for your test plot?
Yeah, so my family farm just south of Dwight, we took out our test plot and to kind of put it in perspective, how different it is in my immediate area out my back door here, we've been significantly drier than most of the state. In August we only had an inch of rain. Last year our plot averaged 240, and this year it averaged 205. So the winning yield in it was 221. So I'm expecting a lot of our corn in my immediate area to just, be in that 200 to 220 area. We farmed some tougher soils in this area, and like I said, we were really dry. So, um, all things being considered, though, I'm really thankful for our yields and what we have, because it could have been a lot worse, and there's a lot to be thankful there for. So, um, in other areas, you're seeing plots that are averaging, 270, 260. I mean, I have a plot in Metamora that I think is going to average 290, so we'll see once that thing gets taken out. But you get west of this area and south and north, and there's a lot of good crop out there.
Aaron, did you hear about fire in the field in Livingston County or McLean County?
No, I didn't hear about a fire. I heard about a grain bin accident in Flanagan, but I could believe that there was a fire with how dry it's been.
How about white mold?
Yeah. Yeah, there's been some white mold in some pockets. That northern Illinois pocket, those higher producing soils, in the western part of my territory in Woodford County, there's some white mold. I always kind of joke with my growers, I always say that's how you know your beans are going to be high yielding if you see some white mold out there in them, because you typically see it in the higher yielding type stuff, So so far it hasn't been too bad. It's definitely out there. Um, the best thing that a grower can do to protect himself against white mold is, look at your variety score for white mold, and there's certain treatments that can be applied to a soybean to, help out with white mold. But mainly if you have a farm that's highly susceptible to white mold, you might want to look into choosing a soybean variety that's gonna be better on white mold on that farm, and a treatment package that's gonna help you with that. But yeah, I'd say it's been about average this year. It's definitely out there for sure.
Do you have any final thoughts about this growing season in central Illinois?
Yeah, I know USDA says it's a record crop, and we'll see what it is. I mean, there's a lot of areas that are going to have above average crop. And I live in one of the areas that's probably going to have a below average crop. So, um, you get on that eastern part of the state where there's a lot of lack of rainfall, and it just depends on how many acres were
Mm,
affected. And I think a lot of these acres will probably be average to below average to about average, and then you get western part of central Illinois, and there's going to be a lot above average. So if is it going to be a record? I don't know. Is it going to be close? Uh, I think so, because I mean there's a lot of acres that are going to pull that average up, and I feel like if a lot of these acres on the eastern part of the state are just, average, they're gonna just, that's gonna drive it up. So, um, take that as you will on the marketing front.
Thanks, Aaron. We appreciate. This is Aaron Wylie from Bear on Back Roads of Illinois.
Yes, thank you for your time, Caesar. I appreciate it, and I think it's really cool what you do. And I had a chance to watch some of your other guests, and think it's really awesome what you do. And should continue doing it because I can tell you got a passion for it and that's awesome. So I really appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks, Aaron. This is your morning markets update. On back roads of Illinois, corn futures are 3 to 5 cents up at the half. Soybean futures are 5 to 4 cents up at the half. Wheat futures are 11 to 6 cents up the quarter. This is your livestock markets update sponsored by Kyle Bumstead from Allendale Incorporated. Cattle futures are up for 8 to 9 cents quarter. Feeder cattle are up at 5 to 10 cents. Lean hogs are up to 4 to 5 cents. Crude oil finished in up 3 to 5 cents. Dow Jones finished in up 3 points. This is your morning markets update minute on back roads of Illinois. Thanks, Aaron Wylie from Bayer for Central Illinois. Now we returning to the biofuels for 35Z models with Jacqui Fatka from CoBank. How are you been, Jacqui?
Good. Thanks so much for having me on your show today, Cesar.
Could you give us update on the 45Z models with the substantial full aviation from May from the Treasury Department?
Yeah, so the 45Z is the tax guidance that will help implement the clean fuel production credit, which is supposed to go into effect in 2025 through 2027. And for those in the farm community, we're waiting to see if there's going to be a guidance that really adequately accounts for the climate farm practices that are happening on the farm and really giving a better value for, cover crops and manure management and no-till and reduced till, even low ammonia. All of those provide some opportunities for farmers to get closer to net zero emissions. And what we saw out of the 40B guidance, which was a previous program for just sustainable aviation fuel, the government's bundled approach, which actually required farmers to do all three actions of cover crops, no-till or reduced till, and a nitrogen efficiency product on their farm, actually really limited the total acreage to about a total of 20%. Now, if we are able to divide those out and have those actually individually accountable for each of those actions, we could see up to 70% of acres be able to qualify. So we're waiting for the government to issue that guidance. Although Secretary Vilsack has said that it could happen yet this fall, or at least before the end of the year, I think we're still thinking that it may be well into 2025, which again makes it really hard for farmers to make those decisions on their farm of how they're going to plant their crop next year that could qualify for those tax credits.
What is the percentage of the ethanol production with unleaded 88?
So right now, are you talking about E15 use unleaded? I just want to make sure I'm clarifying. Right now, our E10 blend or ethanol in the total fuel supply is just over 10%. There is
Yes,
opportunities.
madam.
There is opportunities to expand into more E15 use. We are just barely using a little bit of E15. If you look at our overall fuel blending of ethanol, we're just over that 10%. So some areas, especially in the Midwest, we're seeing some increased use of E15. But as we have more retailers, more gas stations that are offering that, I think we're going to start to see greater adoption of that. I'm based in Ohio, and we have a lot of Sheets, which is a new gas station that's coming in that's very good about marketing that E15, and usually it's 20 to 30 cents cheaper than even the E10 variety. So a lot of consumers are making that decision as there's some bills that would allow for year-round E15 use. Right now, it is allowed in some of the Midwest states. But again, another opportunity to expand use of ethanol by allowing more retailers or retailers making that decision to have E15 available.
Is there anything would you like to tell our listeners about these concerns about cook oil from China?
Yeah, so we definitely have had a huge surge of used cooking oil and tallow displacing soybean oil in a lot of these renewable diesel plants. And for our domestic soy crush facilities, they have put about $6 billion worth of investments and being really pushed out of this market because of all of this used cooking oil and tallow that's being imported into the US. Right now, actually, we are, the Renewable Fuels Association just recently said that they estimate that 1 in every 6 gallons of renewable feedstocks is being from imported used cooking oil or tallow. And so it's really pushing us out of that market. We are understanding that there is an investigation going on whether, especially the used cooking oil from China, is indeed actually used cooking oil or whether it is just heated up palm oil, which from a sustainable standpoint, palm oil is not something that the tax credit should be able to reward. It has a different credit score, a carbon intensity score that it could apply for as well. So really important that we get this figured out. The Renewable Fuels Association is asking for an update on that. It's been about 6 weeks since those reports first came out that there was an audit going on. And they're hopeful that we could continue to find some more information on this. And also, if there is fraudulent UCO coming in, that the government would be able to establish some kind of guidelines, some kind of audit to be able to verify those feedstocks coming in. And again, making sure that the domestic industry is protected, not from being able to just keep everything here, but making sure that it is indeed what they say it is.
Why is not ban on it from China?
We don't ban it from China because we do rely on China to buy our things, and we hope that they would buy ours. And so, and then there has been some threats of, shutting out China completely. But, at the end of the day, we do still need China to buy our corn and soybeans, and lots of other products, dairy and many things, specialty crops that China does purchase from us. And so, you have to tread very carefully in any trade war, we'll call it, or any stopping of complete not sending them any products or not allowing them to send us any products, because at the end of the day, we do rely on a parallel cross trading between China and the US. And so just shutting them out completely may have other ramifications in other products that we do depend on them to import from us.
Do you have any final thoughts?
I think this whole topic of the sustainable aviation fuel is one that the ag industry is really trying to figure out. We are waiting for this guidance from the government, and I think at the end of the day, I think there's a value proposition for farmers. I think there's a value proposition for the retailers who serve the farmers to help really create new revenue streams, but right now the incentives are lacking. The policy environment is too short term to really provide that certainty needed to get this on a pathway for future success.
Thanks, Jacqui.
Thank you. Have a great day.
This is Jacqui Fatka from Cobank Back Roads of Illinois. Welcome back to the show. Otherwise, we are watching for the corn yields in Minnesota and Iowa. Here is Seth Naeve from the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis. Welcome to the show, Seth.
Yes, good day to you and your listeners.
Let's start with our conversation about updating on the harvest season in central Minnesota and south part of the state. Could you explain to our listeners?
Yeah, things are, we've had really exceptionally warm and dry weather the last 3 weeks or so. And so it's really pushed our crop along. So farmers are really getting at the soybeans right now. So we're in the not the last days of September, but we still have a few days left, and so we're really quite a bit ahead of schedule for really actively getting at soybeans. So I think most farmers are probably picking off some soybeans right now, and we're really starting to get rolling with the crop. Likewise, corn is really drying down as well, so things have moved along significantly.
How is the weather in southern Minnesota?
Yes, it's been quite warm. We had exceptionally wet weather through this part of Minnesota into South Dakota and northern Iowa, and I'm sure part of this extended into Illinois as well early on, where we had a significant part of our production area in southern Minnesota received a year's worth of precipitation in just May, June, and July of this year. So exceptionally high rainfalls. We lost a lot of nitrogen from our system, and probably stressed our crops a little bit due to excess water in many cases. And then it pretty much dried out through later part of September all the way, or August through September. So things have been quite dry. It'll be good conditions for harvest. But we definitely lost a little bit of our yield potential just because the rain did taper off a little bit. It's likely that our crop just didn't have roots in the right space. There was plenty of moisture down deep, but I'm sure we just hadn't developed the type of a crop to be able to access all that deeper water this year. So I think we'll be stressed just a little bit, and we'll not have some of the record yields that we'll see in places like Illinois.
Could you tell our listeners about the sugar beet?
Yeah, so sugar beets are an important crop in Minnesota and North Dakota and across some of the other top tier states. But certainly Western Minnesota and into North Dakota, this is a very important crop for us. Sugar beets are an interesting crop from a production standpoint due to rotations and herbicide utilization and other pest control in those crops. And because we're pulling sugar out of these large beets, there's a lot of transportation, storage, and management of that crop during the season. So it's a big challenge for them, and those co-ops can only produce so much sugar in a year. So farmers that have very high yields will have to reduce some of their total lifting. So not all of the sugar beets will be lifted this year or harvested because we'll have very, very high yields. And so maybe 10 or 15% of each of the farmers' fields will not be lifted simply because of high yields and plenty of sugar available.
What is the production for?
Yeah, the production all goes into our table sugar that we're utilizing here. So cane sugar is for the most part not very well utilized anymore. A lot of interesting tax and tariff and subsidy questions related to sugar over the years, but we utilize a lot of we utilize a lot of beet sugar in the U.S. and in Europe. South America and other more tropical countries are getting a lot of their sugar from sugar cane, of course.
What is your takes on the Pro Farmer Crop Tour for last month?
Yeah, I'm really, it's always a good guess where this is going to go. I think Pro Farmer does a very nice job, but it's very, very difficult to establish yield potentials in soybeans, and so these are really good guesses by their crop tour folks and the participants on the tour. But it's all relative to USDA, and then the real test is when the farmers start harvesting their crop. And so I think it's pretty easy to estimate what a corn crop is, what's going to happen with acreage in terms of harvest from this crop. And so I think there's a lot of folks paying close attention to see where things go. Certainly, we have acreage issues in Minnesota due to lost crop this year, due to drown out areas and failure to replant in some spaces. So this is going to be another thing to keep an eye out for sure.
Is there anything would you like to tell our listeners about this growing season in Upper Midwest?
Well, I would just repeat that this has been a really, really very, very unusual rainfall pattern that we've had in the Upper Midwest, and really affected our crop in a very strange way with this excess moisture almost all the way through the season. And the loss of nitrogen from the corn crop is going to really affect producers differentially based on whether they're able to get side dress nitrogen applied or not. So there's going to be huge variations in yields from corn. On soybeans, it's all based on drainage potential. One of the interesting areas to watch, I think, is again, this northern area in Minnesota and North Dakota, the Red River Valley. There's some exceptional looking soybean crops in this area, and that area tends to be ignored by a lot of the yield estimators. And so if they can produce a large crop in that area, it will definitely overall support Minnesota yields and Minnesota production significantly this year for sure, because of the large number of acres.
Do you have any final thoughts?
No, I think that's it.
Thanks, Seth.
Thank you very much for reaching out, Cesar. It was good to chat with you.
This is Seth Naeve from the University of Minnesota on back roads of Illinois. This is close bell numbers of the commodity markets from Kyle Bumstead from Allendale Inc. November feeder cattle plus $0.975 closing at $242.75. December live cattle plus $625 closing at $183.825. December lean hogs plus $650 closing at $74.875. December corn plus 11 single quote 6 closing at $4.13 single quote. For November soybeans plus 27 single quote 2 closing at $10.39 single quote 2. December Chicago wheat plus 14 single quote 0 closing at $5.82 single quote. For December KC wheat plus 13 single quote 2 closing at $577 single quote 2. Closing quotes provided by Kyle R. Bumstead Branch Office Manager Erickson, Nebraska Allendale, Incorporated. Thanks to our friends from Allendale for bringing the final numbers of trade. Thanks to all of the guests on today's program. We're running out of time on our show. This has been Back Roads of Illinois. I am Cesar Delgado. Have a great day.